Welcome into Moving the Chains. I'm Kevin Thomas alongside Jerel Hendricks. Got a great interview lineup today for you guys. The head coach of the Saluda Tigers, Stewart Young. Coach, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing okay. Still licking my wounds a little bit, but we've moved on after today from what happened this past Friday. But yeah, I'm doing good. It was exciting to get back on the field and coach some practice today. That was kind of medicine. Once you get back in the routine of things, it just gets back to feeling like you're supposed to feel, coaching football. And that's what you do it for, and that's what's fun. And so that was good practice today. And I think we're back to normal now.
Good. Well, Coach, we appreciate your time. We really do. We know you're busy, so we do appreciate you sitting down with us today. If this is you guys' first time tuning in, we appreciate that as well. Check us out, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, etc. Moving the Chains, movingchains.com. Also, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc. So, Coach Young, you're in your ninth season here as the head coach of Saluda. Let's get started there. You won the 2019 2A state title as well. How'd you get into coaching, and what's your career been like so far?
Well, I played at Union, and I was fortunate enough to get a chance to play college at Presbyterian. And I graduated in high school in 2001, started PC. So I played through 2004 at PC. And Coach Bell, Wayne Bell, was my defensive coordinator at Union, and he was going to become the head coach at Saluda for his first year going into 2005. And Coach Bell asked me to be the secondary coach. I was going to have the student teach, and so I turned him down 2 or 3 times, and because I didn't know if I'd be able to student teach and coach. And then, true story, my grandfather, who was my hero, he had a stroke in March of that spring and died in May, right when Coach Bell. I was actually walking out of the hospital when we figured out that he was going to, end up being on hospice. And on the way out of the ramp, leaving the hospital that day, my phone rang, and it was Coach Bell asking me one more time, do I want to take the job? And I took it. And I've been at Saluda ever since. So this will be 18 years at Saluda. And that's the only place I've ever been. That's the only place I've ever been. I don't know how it's done anywhere else in the high school rankings, just because that's the only place I've ever been.
So, Coach Young, we got to do it. We got to talk about last week's game a little bit. Just a tough loss, 6-3 to Strom Thurmond. That is your first loss on the season, moves you guys to 6-1. After reviewing that film, how do you guys think you performed, and what would you have liked to have done better on Friday night?
Well, we've had, I used a bunch of cliches, and one of them is, it's never as good as it seems. It's never as bad as it seems. It's always somewhere in between. And you rewind back to about 2 weeks ago when we played Gilbert. We turned it over. We had some penalties. We had 2 touchdowns called back against Gilbert in the third quarter, but we were fortunate enough to still win it. And sometimes, you don't realize that you could have easily lost that game by stupid penalties. And then you fast forward to just past week, and we had 2 touchdowns called back in the first half. One on the first drive from the inch line. I mean, literally the inch line, and they called a holding penalty. And then we fumbled on the next play. And so we didn't score. We were inside the 10 twice and came up with 3 points. And then the second quarter, first play of the second quarter, scored a touchdown, and we did not get our receiver set. And it was our fault. It was a bad penalty. And then in the third quarter, we turned it over 3 times. So you can't have penalties and you can't have turnovers to win a team against a good team, win a game against a good team like Strom Thurmond and Coach Webb. And so, yeah, it is what it is. But, I told our kids today, and we watched the entire film this morning, but a lot of times a game like this is the last game of the year, and you feel down and out because you lost in the playoffs. But, hey, man, we still got a chance. We still play it. We're going to learn from it and make some adjustments, and hopefully we'll have a chance to make a run into the playoffs and see what happens. But, and I also use a term a lot. The sunlight's the greatest disinfectant. And sometimes when the light doesn't get shown because you win, you don't see the infection. And this time we got a chance to really look at it and really try to figure out some things that maybe we've got to correct at a quicker pace than we may have if we had lost. So we're going to make some changes on some things, and we'll bounce back. We got a good football team. We got a bunch of good kids.
So, Coach, what was it like to coach against, Coach Webb on Friday night, a guy who had been a part of your program for so long? What was that experience like going up against a guy that was, last year over on you guys' sideline?
Like I told somebody, there's not a blueprint for this situation. There's no book to read to tell you how to handle a situation like, going against one of your best friends who was actually your right-hand man for 3 years, who you probably told more secrets and strategies to than anybody else. And now all of a sudden, oh boy, he's your opponent. Not to mention just the fact that we knew each other for so long. And he's not the only one. Coach Newton has been my defensive coordinator since I took the job. He switched gears and went over to Sean Thurman too. So they had both our coordinators. They had the defensive coordinator and they had our old offensive coordinator, along with our wide receivers coach from last year. So they had 3 guys that was on our staff last year that were over there. So they knew us inside and out. On the flip side, we kind of knew what they were going to try to do inside and out. So it was really mirror images of each other. And I think that's why you got a 6-3 last second field goal type game, because both, particularly on defensive side of the ball, we knew what the guy was thinking, and we were able to kind of give him what he didn't want, so to speak, on both sides, and that kept it to a low-scoring ball game. But Coach Webb's respected by me. He's one of my best friends in the world. I love him. I'll tell you that right now. He's one of my dudes, man. And we're past it. We talked on Saturday for about 55 minutes, I think. That's what my phone said when I got off. We're buddies, man. But it was emotional. It was different. I caught myself looking over at him sometimes just to see what he was, just see how he was acting, because But I'm happy for him. He's successful. He deserves to be successful, and I'm glad that he's got him a chance to be successful as Sean Thurman.
During that 19 season, you had a couple, on the bright side here, in that 19 season, you had a couple situations where y'all lost in the regular season, were able to get some redemption in the playoffs against teams that you had lost to. How do you use that as motivation for this year's team, drawing from that experience?
Well, I found ourselves in 2020 and maybe even 2021, going back to 2019 a bunch. And I think our kids get a little tired of that. So we've tried to move forward and not really bring that season up. But now this kind of stuff happens, and you virtually have to, essentially have to, because, we lost to Abbeville by 4 touchdowns, mind you. And then we lost to Batesburg on a very similar thing. They scored with 8 seconds to go in that same end zone and beat us. And I mean, the mood was the exact same. They were celebrating. We were down. We go in our locker room. We come out. They're still celebrating. And we were fortunate enough to turn it around that year and win 5 in a row. And we got to knock off a couple of teams that beat us earlier. This year's different. Every year's different. You don't know how the bracket's going to lay out. You don't even know how yet what that's going to be like. But I think there was a few players, especially Tyleek Mathis, our number 2, our running back / wide receiver / DB / everything. Yeah. He started during that year, so he's been our leader, and he remembers those moments of how we had to rally together. And he's done a really good job today, just in the way he's acting and leading our team. So I think we can learn from that the season's not over, that we're still a good football team, and I think we can use that as a little bit of a positive for us.
So, Coach, for folks who may not have seen you guys play this year or in the past, what type of schemes do you run on offense and defense? And do you call plays for this side of the ball as well?
No, I don't. I'm a defensive coach. And so the defense that we're running is, I don't want to say mine, but it's kind of what evolved from when I was the coordinator before I got to be the head coach. So, and then Coach Painter retired, and I got fortunate enough to con myself into getting the job. And so I've been running this defense for a while. And then Coach Chase Duncan is our coordinator, but I do call, help him out a lot, and we work together. And I signal and I veto anything that maybe or that I don't think is going to be good, but he calls it. And then offensively, Coach Garrett Jones calls the offense. He was underneath Coach Webb for the last 3 years, and I feel like there's no need to reinvent the wheel. And he's I'm a loyalty guy, and he's been with me for 6 years. And if he's not ready to call ball plays, then it's my fault. And as a head coach, I didn't do a good enough job of grooming him. So Coach Jones calls the offense, and we run a spread. We started out throwing the ball 70% of the time, and now we've kind of moved into a run-first kind of deal. just because of the defenses are taking away certain things. But the beauty of it is we have the ability, I think, at times to be a good running team. But defensively, schematically, we're 4-man front, 4-2. Usually we cover 3. Now, we did not go cover 3 one single play against Coach Webb because I knew exactly what he wanted, and that was cover 3, and so we didn't give it to him. But we're multiple. We'll run some man covers. We ran a bunch of man last week. But and we can go to a 3-man front if possible. But we're more of a 4-man front.
So far in the season, this is a great team. You guys are averaging 31 points per game on offense and just giving up 10 on defense. You already mentioned Tyler Mathis, a 4-year starter for you there. But who are some other key players that are helping you guys this season?
Quarterback Jonah McCary is a 3-year starter. He had a really good year last year, statistically especially. This year, with things being taken away in the passing game, we haven't thrown it as much. We may have forced some things in some games early because we were thinking that's what we were supposed to do. We're going to throw the ball, but when you can't, when everything's double covered, you realize you got to run it. So, yeah, but Jonah's a player for us. Defensively, Friday night we have 4 defensive linemen all make double-digit tackles. I've never had that happen before. We were able to stymie the run with basically 4 guys and 1 linebacker for a lot of the time, and that's big. Secondary wise, we're pretty good. And Tyler Mathis plays both ways. I think that's the biggest difference this year, Saluda versus other years. We've got more guys, skill guys, going both ways. We've got 3 or 4 that play almost every snap, and we've never done that. We've tried to be 2 platoon, but this year we felt like they're good enough to do it. And they did it Friday night. I mean, I don't think being out of shape or lack of, but maybe some mental errors because of the tiredness. That may be the problem that we're having a little bit, maybe. So we go both. We got some guys going both ways, and that. But that's okay. It's 2-way football,
Yes, sir.
Zion Wright is a tall receiver for us. I got a good line on both sides, really. Bernard Works is a good lineman. So we got some guys. I hate to keep naming names because I'll never be able to name them all. But yeah,
very true. Well, Coach, so last year you guys made it to the second round of the playoffs, lost to Abbeville in a 15-point game there. How has that kind of fueled and motivated you guys, not only maybe in the workouts, but going into this season?
Well, last year we were 7-3, but we had 3 games canceled due to COVID, and we picked up one that was Raven County, which was not a good decision on my part because they were really, really good. And so we really could have been a 10-win team, should have been a 10-win team probably last year. And then we ended up playing Abbeville. Our region last year, our region last year, our bracket in 2A football was the only bracket out of 10 brackets, meaning upper state and lower state for 5 classifications, that the 2 seed from a region had to play a 1 seed in the second round. Out of all other 9 brackets, every 2 seed never played a 1 seed until the 3rd round, except for us. We had to play Abbeville. I don't know how that's how 2A bracket's set up. So we played Abbeville in the 2nd round instead of the 3rd round, which every other 2 seed got to do. And they beat us, fair and square, and we played them pretty good. We hung with them. We cut it to 1 possession, I think twice in the second half. But yeah, I always say I want to be in that top group of teams. I think there's a handful of teams every year that can realistically say, we got a chance to win a state championship. And I think we're close to being in that group. If not in it, we'll see. But last year was our kind of stepping stone to get back in that group, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no shame losing to Gunner Stockton and Rabin last year. Those guys were absolutely phenomenal. But looking at this week, you guys are going to be on the road going to Petticoat Junction. You're going to face off with Coach D'Angelo Bryant there in the Silver Bluff Bulldogs. They're a young team, but still have some playmakers, especially on offense. What will it take to bounce back there and get a win this week?
First of all, Coach Bryant D'Angelo is one of my good coaching buddies. We get along great. In fact, I went down and I've been down to watch them practice, over the years because I respect what he does. When we're not playing or we're in playoffs and we're out and they're still playing kind of thing. He's one of my good buddies. I respect the heck out of him. I know what kind of program he runs. So yes, they did lose some guys. but watching them on tape, they've got some guys. And I told our guys today, what we can't do is let one loss turn into two, because that happens sometimes, particularly with an emotional roller coaster that was Friday night. And it's small town now, so they're hearing it from. Not only do they have to go play the game, they're hearing it everywhere they go in town. Before the game, after the game, all this week. These people don't care about Silver Bluff. These people are still going to harp on Thurman, and I got to make sure our kids are ready to play. And that's kind of going to be a challenge, because this team is really good. This team is really good, and so I don't know. They're 16-year-old kids. And hopefully we can do a good enough job to explain to them, A, how good Silver Bluff is, and B, how important this game is. This is a very important ball game. If we want to get back in that, situation where we can have a chance to make a run in the playoffs. So yeah, we got our hands full. So we'll see.
Coach, you mentioned a minute ago where you think that you guys get close to that level where you can really compete to win it all. Where would you say you guys are, based off of where you started the year and kind of where you're going to be at the end of the year? How far along that journey as far as being a great team do you think you are?
Man, it ebb and flows all the time. One week you think you're really good on defense, and then next week you give up some stuff, and then offensively you think you're not doing very good, and then you come back out. So I don't know. We got to be consistent, and right now we're not consistent. Defensively we played about as good as we played in a long time Friday night. In fact, there's been 5 teams score more points than we gave up Friday night, and we've won all 5 of those games, and we lost the one that we gave up the least amount of points to. Offensively, Friday night, I was really down, and everybody was, but then you go watch the tape, and we averaged over 5 yards a play. We only had 37 plays, however. So we didn't sustain it. Until we can, to answer your question, until we can stop doing penalizing ourselves and turning the ball over, we're not a great team. The day that we stop doing those 2 things, then we'll be a great team.
So, Coach, you played at Union, which is an amazing environment. But our Movin the Chains crew, we were able to cover that game last Friday night down in Saluda, and it felt like the entire county was out there. Just explain how awesome that environment is for your team to play in each and every week when you guys have a home game.
Yeah, our fans are awesome. Going back to the beginning of your question, Union was, when I was there, it was a standard of, wow, that's what you do. That's what you. And I know this is going to sound cliche or corny. I don't know, but when I first got the head job, we went and played Union in a scrimmage at Union County Stadium. When I was growing up, I used to sit on the rail right next to the press box. I never missed a game. Went to all the games as a little kid, all the way till obviously I started playing. And I pointed our kids. This was back in 14 or 15, and I pointed that rail and I said, I want kids in Saluda to grow up watching you guys play like I grew up watching the guys at Union play and remembering all of that. And that was one of my goals, was to turn Saluda into something that, man, like what you saw Friday night. And we lost, and that stings. But like you said, to see that crowd and that environment and that noise and that that's what it's all about. Really, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. So it's fun, and it keeps our kids, excited. In the off season, you can bring it up and show them, hey, look at this crowd you're going to be playing in front of 6 months from now. And they're like, oh, man, I better start working out, that kind of thing, because it's fun. So I tip my hat to our community.
Coach, we've got a couple of easier ones here before we let you go. So you're getting ready for game on Friday night. What's on the pregame playlist for you?
Me? Well, I don't listen to music on a home game, but on the road games I do. And Pandora, and I usually am I'm going to listen to DMX, a couple of songs,
okay.
And then I'll hit 50 Cent, and yeah, usually I go to Pandora and I hit those 2 guys, or maybe some Tupac or Biggie, kind of going back to my young days. But yeah, usually some type of, I don't know, stuff that gets you a little bit hyped up.
Love it.
So, Coach, I live in the upstate here, so I had about an hour and a half, 2-hour drive back home through Greenwood and Union and all that. We learned that you're an outdoorsman. What's the biggest deer you've seen on camera this year?
Well, I'm a half outdoorsman. I am a fisherman. I'm not a hunter.
Okay.
We fish a lot. My son and even my daughter, we'll go out and fish. Now we fish the ponds. I live out here at the Persimmon Hills, so we'll fish those ponds. But I grew up fishing catfish with my grandfather all the time. Same one I was mentioning earlier, and so he taught me how to fish. And yeah, that's my. I went fishing last Saturday. I just like to go out there and throw it out there. It's just peaceful, bass, brim, catfish, crappie, any of that stuff. But I don't hunt. I do not hunt. That's not something I was ever privy to as a child. So I'm a fisherman.
Gotcha.
So, Coach, we've mentioned this a couple times. You brought it up as well. You were part of some legendary teams at Union County, winning multiple state championships there, playing with guys like Roscoe Crosby, Kyle Browning, Newberry coach Cedric Jeter now. What was that experience like playing with some of those guys and just being on such a special team that is still talked about as, some of the greatest in all time here in South Carolina?
Yeah, well, I tell you, you took it for granted when you were there because you didn't really know any better. Because we won every game in middle school. We never lost, and then we got to be 9th and 10th graders, and the majority of us played JV, and we were pretty good there. And then all of a sudden we get up, except for Roscoe and Kyle, they played varsity. But then we got up to the varsity our junior year, me and Cedric in particular, and we went 28-2, and you just didn't really realize how good you were. And then you become a coach, and you see guys, and you're thinking, man, Roscoe was really good. He could just do things that were ungodly. And Kyle was fast, and Xavier Bird went to Carolina, and we had guys. But baseball, I tell you now, baseball was the fun thing. I played with Roscoe because we would have to send half the team outside of the fence during batting practice and half the team inside the fence because he was going to hit the majority of them either. They were going to be out of there. And the pro scouts used to come, man, and they would give us every pro team would be there, and they would bring their own little box of balls down, and they'd throw 5 balls with the Braves balls. Well, then the Braves wouldn't take the balls back, so Union got to keep hundreds of balls. So then the Cubs would come down there and give them their balls. It was wild, man. It was one of the craziest things I've been around. But those are my boys. We had a lot of fun. But yeah, looking back, we were really good, and we didn't realize how fortunate we were to all be in that same group together.
All right, so I'm going to try this again. We got some bad intel on your outdoorsman endeavors, but we did hear that you were pretty fast back in the day. You played at PC. What was that 40 time back in the day?
Oh, man, they always call it. I don't know. I think my fastest ever, I went to the Nike clinic in 1999, right before my junior year, and I ran a 4.5 flat on the grass out there, and that kind of got some heads turning. So the fastest I ever got clocked by a legitimate kind of camp area, I ran a 4.5 flat in front of Skip Holtz at Carolina, and they told me to go run it again because they didn't believe it. Then I ran a 4.39. And that was kind of the one that put me on some boards. I wasn't a very good football player. I was fast. But that 4.39 would be the fastest I was ever clocked officially.
Okay. Well, so let me ask you, you guys line up at practice here. It's you, Roscoe, Kyle. Who's winning that race?
Roscoe. Me and Kyle might tie, but I think Roscoe Roscoe was just – it depended on what you were doing, though. I mean – if you try to stick him man to man, he's gonna juke you. If you try to play him in you race him, he's gonna beat you. I mean, he just beat you in everything. He was just tough, man. And he's such a good dude too. I mean, he was awesome. Kyle too. I mean, that was fun. Like I said, didn't really realize how good we were back then, but that was fun.
Yeah. Well, Coach, we just talked about those state championships here at Union. Let's talk about your 2019 team again. I mean, those guys were a special group there. You got hot at the right time. Noah Bell, Wright, guys like that, making plays there all throughout the postseason. What was that run like there where you guys just were unstoppable there for a 5-6 week stretch?
Well, I don't know if that, and I'll be honest to say, I think our 2016 team that I've coached here was probably the best overall team because there was very few holes. That year our offensive line was small in 19, I'm talking about. But we just had the right chemistry, and Noah just Noah and Dalen just took it upon themselves to kind of say, we're not going to be defeated. We're sick and tired of watching this. From our 9th grade year on, that we've lost in the upper state or 3rd round. And they took it upon themselves, especially up at Abbeville that night when we were down 21-3, that we're going to try. We're going to win this thing. And Coach Webb was really instrumental in that. And then defensively, I tell you the truth, we got Coach Newton, who's Thurman's defense coordinator. He was the guy that called the defense. So those two guys really helped us. We were able to get a defense that could be multiple without having to change any personnel. That was very big. We could go from a 4-2 to a 4-3 to a 3-5 without having to bring anybody off the field and give people different looks. And I think that was pretty important going into that playoff. And then, we got the state championship, and I don't think our kids realized how big of a game it was. It was almost like we had played such a big game the week before that the state game didn't, it just kind of leveled that importance out. Like, does that make any sense? They just kind of had to beat Abbeville at Abbeville. I mean, how much more bigger can you get?
Yeah, for sure.
And so, it was just kind of like, well, we've already done that. We can do this. And they kind of came out with that attitude, But that was fun. I'll never forget it, and it was a special, special day.
So down in Saluda, we got hooked with our first time down in that environment. So we'll definitely be making another trip. We got to ask a typical Movin the Chains question. Next time we head down there, what restaurants do we need to hit up in the Saluda area?
Well, we don't. Saluda is not necessarily known for its cuisine. The restaurant my family and I eat at is El Guerrero, the most a Mexican restaurant, and it's good. But we've got some really good stuff that, we got Lunch and Treats does some things, especially obviously at lunchtime. We've got some food trucks that are really good. We got a new lunch place, Paulie's. There's a handful. I hate to name stuff because I don't want to make anybody mad. But there's some, but I'm a Mexican restaurant guy. That's you can't really lose. It's always good. So I'd hit the Mexican restaurant up if I was y'all.
End of the day, you get free chips and salsa, or you can get you a margarita, so you're good to go.
Yeah.
Can't beat it. Well, last question here, Coach. Obviously, the season's 7 games in already. What are some of you guys' goals here kind of as the season ends?
Well, we've got to win every – our goal is to win the last 3. We play some really good teams with some really good coaches. Coach Lawson at Batesburg coached me at Union. Mm-hmm. He was on the staff at Union back when I was there, so he's the head coach at Batesburg. So Fox Creek, I don't know much about those guys, but they're very, the interactions I've had with them, they seem like they're doing things the right way. So, and of course, I've already talked about D'Angelo. So we've got 3 formidable opponents, and then once that happens, now we take a deep breath, we look at the bracket, and then we just lay it out in front and say, here is your chance to win a championship. You got to beat blank, 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 blank. And that's it. There's no going back. There's no saying what ifs. It's just in front of you. But to get to that point, you've got to win the next 3. And it all starts with Silver Bluff.
Well, Coach, this has been great. Definitely want all of our viewers to go check out the Saluda program on Twitter, Facebook, etc. Like I mentioned earlier, check us out as well, please, on Movin the Chains, movingchains.com, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, etc. Jerel, any other questions for Coach before we let him go tonight?
No more questions. I just want to thank Coach Young for his time tonight. I want to thank him especially for having us at Hurlong Field last Friday. Even though, the team did not get the result they were looking for, that is a dang good football team, and they're going to make some noise through the end of this season. So I wish them continued success there. I just am very excited to see what they do and how they bounce back. I love two-way football. And I love that environment that we were able to witness on Friday. If you have not made it down to Saluda, you need to put it on your bucket list if you're a South Carolina high school football fan, and go check out that program. The community's behind them, and it's a lot of fun to watch. It's a fun place to watch a ball game.
For sure, Coach. We really appreciate your time. We really do. Look forward to making it down again soon and catching up with you and chatting again sometime soon.
No, I really appreciate y'all for doing this. I'm sorry I'm late in my son's bed, and I hope the angle of my camera's not bad or whatever, but I'm glad I took the time out to spend it with you guys tonight. Thank y'all.
We appreciate you, Coach. Thank you.
Yes, sir.